5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
And with that, welcome to your Media Mosh podcast. I am your host, Shane Beauregard, coming at you with all your news, reviews. Nope, psych. Got a special episode today, live in the studio, this luxurious studio. I have a special guest, Mr. Arguing Myself, Chris Rodell. He's going to join me today, so introduce yourself, Chris.
Hey y'all, it's Chris from Arguing with Myself, Mr. Arguing with Myself, Mr. Marvel, Shane's brother from another mother. It's me.
Right. And today, if this episode goes nowhere, it is totally my fault because I'm the one who came up with this subject. And we're going to talk way more about a movie that no one gives a shit about, to be honest with you. Except for very few minority, that this is a cult movie. And again, it's my idea. I picked this movie because they re-released it in Blu-ray a week ago. That is the 2007 movie, Southland Tales, the follow-up from Richard Kelly coming off of Donnie Darko. So let's first talk about Richard Kelly. Now, Chris, I like Donnie Darko, don't get me wrong, but you are a bigger fan of Donnie Darko, which came out in 2001. Is that correct?
That is right. I really loved Donnie Darko. It's one of the top films it's my go-to. I just love what he did with it.
Right, and that was his first big movie.
Yeah.
Right, because before that he did two short movies, The Good Place in 1996 and Visceral Matter in 1997. So he came out the box hot, and he was tagged as an up-and-coming young director. Then his follow-up again is Southland Tales. And then after that was The Box with James Marsden and Cameron Diaz, which was based on a Twilight Zone episode. And we haven't heard from Mr. Kelly since 2009. Are you surprised that he hasn't gotten any work since The Box?
I really am, but I kind of chalk that up to he does his own thing, obviously from these films that you mentioned. But he has very grand ideas, as we'll talk about with Southland Tales. And I think Donnie Darko was the most accessible, even though a lot of people still, to this day, can't wrap their brains around what that was about.
Right. So I don't want to say he's full of himself, but he does come off as a little deeper meanings in his movies. So this right now is 39% critic score on Rotten Tomato with a 41% audience score. Again, it was released in 2006 at the Cannes Film Festival, and then it had a November 14th release, 2007, here in the United States. Its budget was $17 million. Its haul at the movie theaters was $374,743. So you want to talk about a bomb. Now, maybe that's one reason why he has not gotten work. And this was a very big vision that he had for this movie. And we'll get to that in a second. So, the music was done by Moby in this movie. And I'm going to read you pretty much the synopsis on this movie. And then we'll just dive right in. On July 4th, 2005, in a fictionalized United States alternate history reality, two towns in Texas were destroyed by twin nuclear attacks, killing thousands and triggering a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions, sending America into a state of anarchy and hysteria, as well as a third world war, a fictionalized version of what the nation may have become under the war on terror, with the United States government reintroducing the draft. In the near future, 2008, Los Angeles, referred to as the Southland, is a dystopian city on the brink of chaos. Overshadowed by the growth of an underground neo-Marxist organization, the film follows the crisscrossed destinies of Boxer Santoro, an action film that's what it says. An action film actor stricken with amnesia, Christy Now, a psychic ex-porn star in the midst of creating a reality TV show, and twin brothers Roland and Ronald Tavernier, whose destinies become intertwined with all that of mankind. The Tavernier twins are revealed to be the same person by the engineers of Trier, duplicated when Ronald traveled through a rift in space-time, while Boxer has become the most wanted man in the world despite his political ties and is having the fate of the future, in the form of prophetic screenplay foretelling the end of the world in his hands. Wow, that was a mouthful. And I'm sure I already lost a lot of people out here. Now, I'll say the best part of this movie, which Chris is going to go over in a second, is the cast. It is a wide net. You have a ton of names in this movie. So go ahead, Chris, and fill us in with the cast.
Do you have some time? Because, boy, this was stacked. Stacked. I don't know where I should stop. As Shane said, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson stars, along with Justin Timberlake, Sean William Scott, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Wallace Shawn, Curtis Armstrong, Bai Ling, Beth Grant, Nora Dunn, Miranda Richardson, Holmes Osborne, John Larroquette, Amy Poehler, Sherry O'Terry, John Lovitz, Will Sasso, and in minor roles, Kevin Smith, Eli Roth, and blink and you'll miss her, Janine Garofalo.
Yes, and blink you'll miss him, Eli Roth. He was in it for literally 2 seconds. So that's a huge cast. And when I found rewatching this movie, because I haven't seen it since it came out, and I did not like this movie. I don't like when directors try to sell you graphic novels to fill you in on what's going on in the story.
I bought that.
Yeah. So when this movie first came out, I do remember, Chris, you were a bigger fan of this movie, and you have one of the graphic novels, correct?
I have the collection of the 3 graphic novels that came out prior to the movie.
Right.
And yeah, I was a fan of Richard Kelly's because of Donnie Darko, and I gotta admit, watching this film now, I had blinders on. I was like, yeah, I get where he's coming from. I know what he's doing. And on this rewatch, my God, we were like 4 hours in, and we looked at our watches, and lo and behold, we were just an hour. No, all joking aside, it was long. It's
2 hours and 24 minutes.
Yeah. But as we said, we were like, wow, okay, we're gonna watch half of it, and then we'll reconvene because we watched this kind of late. But even the halfway mark, we had to push through that. It's not what I remembered, and there were certain scenes that I didn't remember. So I really don't know what I was thinking back then.
Right, and my second viewing did not change at all, except for the fact that I didn't like this when I saw it because I thought it was confusing as hell. I didn't understand what was going on. And rewatching it, I forgot half the movie, to be honest with you. Like, there were certain scenes, like Chris said, I'm like, I don't remember this part at all. It's still very confusing because there's too many characters, I believe. Yes. And you can read the backlog. We're not going to bore you, but there's a lot of production issues. The Rock joined the cast a little late. Yeah, but I will say it does mirror some of the political landscape of what's going on today. Because one of the stories centered around this is the throwing of an election. Neo-Marxist, basically, they want to overthrow the Republican Party and rig the election. So there's riots. So it did, funny enough, it did mirror a lot of like the political stuff going on today. So maybe a little foreshadowing on Kelly's part. So go ahead and Chris and fill us in on like what you say were the main characters, because really this movie follows around two characters which have collaborated before.
Yeah.
being The Rock and Stifler.
Sean William Scott.
Stifler. I'm going to call him Stifler.
Sean William Scott.
They were in the 2003 Rundown, which is an enjoyable movie and a better pairing of the two than this one. This was pre-steroid Rock too. This is like just getting his acting chops.
Shut your mouth. He is all natural.
Yeah, maybe for this movie, yeah. This is definitely, like, I think maybe he launched his Disney career after this movie with the Tooth Fairy and all that
probably,
stuff.
yeah.
Right. So go ahead and kind of fill us in on the main characters and what their journeys are.
I just want to point out that you talk about collaborations. Though they don't have any scenes together, Sean William Scott was in Cop Out, which was directed by Kevin Smith.
Right. And I before Chris gets into it, I will say this movie is narrated by Justin Timberlake's character. And as the movie's going along, he talks about books of
Revelations.
Yeah, books of Revelations. And that kind of ties into the bigger picture of the movie. So you're narrated through this whole journey by Justin Timberlake, who does play a key role in this movie. And his name is...
Pilot Alberdine.
There you go. All right, Chris. So fill us in on the main characters and what is kind of going on.
Okay, so Pilot is narrating the story of Boxer, who snaps out of a desert surroundings and has amnesia as to what brought him there and why he ended up there. And he is in a relationship with...
You forgot her name. Did you mention Mandy Moore?
I did not. I did not.
Mandy Moore's in this movie as well.
She plays his wife, but he, at the beginning, is in a relationship with Sarah Michelle Gellar's character of Krista Now, which is kind of confusing because you aren't introduced to Mandy Moore's character until about halfway through, or
about an hour into it, yeah.
Which they only say her name, that he is married to her, but you're like, okay, that means nothing to me. But he has this relationship with Krista Now, and she is a celebrity type. She's a porn star, but she's a political talking head, or she tries to be. She's that sort of vacuous personality that thinks that, oh, I want to talk about important issues. And they really have no idea what they're talking about. But she is joined by a group of cackling hens at her side, and they are just followed by whoever is interested. I don't think we've seen the audience of them, but we know that everyone's aware of her program and her goings on. They are one half of the story. Sean William Scott's character of Roland Taverner, he is going to expose the political party.
The Republican Party, yes.
Yeah, but I didn't know if they were going for exposing them or the future police force as racists.
Right. No, I think it was the Republican Party. This is where this movie gets lost in translation, because the neo-Marxist movement, which is most of the cast is affiliated with, Amy Poehler, Sherry O'Terry, they kidnap one of Ronald or Roland. I think it was Ronald they kidnapped.
Yeah.
And they're going to use him as a puppet to blackmail the Republican Party for financial gain and to throw the election as well. So there's a lot of political play here between the neo-Marxists, and that's like the main movement of the movie, because there's a lot of double-crossing. We don't know who's really working with what party, and each one has kind of their own agenda. And there's a lot of government oversight. Like they have, what do they call, alt-ID, so the government knows and exactly what you're doing at all times. They have they have you in a database. So it's kind of like 1984-ish in that way. So Boxer's being used as a puppet, and it takes you forever to figure out why, because both parties, the neo-Marxists want to use him, and the Republican Party wants to use him, because Mandy Moore is the daughter of the guy, Robert Elliott, I think his name is, running for president. So he's very important to that party. So yeah, it's
there's a lot of plate spinning.
yes.
There's a lot going on, and to be honest, you don't really follow what's going on until it's basically all laid out to you at the end.
Right.
You know, it's like, here's what should have happened, and here's what did happen, and here's where we are now. So I'm like, I appreciate them doing that, but to get there, my God, you had to trudge through a lot of exposition. You really needed one of those boards that have like the strings and the pins, because really you do not know what's going on without a program. But yeah, it really with some of the terms that were being thrown around, and even having Justin Timberlake's character basically talk you through where we got from the World War III or 2005 to 2008, what happened in that span to where we are now.
Right.
It still was confusing, and you had visuals while he's talking and saying, "Okay, here's where we are, here's where we were, and here's the movie."
Right. And Justin Timberlake's character, Pilot, is connected to Ronald. So they were both in Fallujah together, and I guess Ronald, under friendly fire, really, what's the good word for it?
Messed up
his face, JT's face, where he had to do plastic surgery.
Yeah.
So while he's narrating, he's sitting on top of this post, this rotating chair, where you can zoom in on anyone in the area, and he's equipped with a 50 cal. So that's pretty much him. And I will say there was a weird part in the middle of this movie that made no sense. There's a musical piece in the middle of this movie with Justin Timberlake, and it's set to All These Things I've Done by the Killers. And Richard Kelly said he left that in there because that is the heart and the soul of the movie. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Like, to me, that seems so out of place and didn't connect any part of the movie.
JT is a good performer.
Yeah, he's fine in this.
That's it.
Yeah, he's fine in it. It just made zero sense in where it was placed in the movie.
But it was funny, I also read that he did that to the Killers song without getting the permission, or he wasn't given the okay for the use of the song. So if he didn't have it, then that scene would have been gone anyway.
Right.
I think. Or they would have chosen another song. But he had, 3 days to film
Right.
his scenes?
Right, because the boxer kept... During the screenplay, he had visions, so he knew the world was ending, right? So that was his way. He was trying to figure out and get information to the right people to figure out what was going on and how to stop it, pretty much. Now, Ronald gets away from the neo-Marxist, and his mission is to find his brother, and his hand starts to glow. And that plays key till the last scene in the movie. So his mission is to find his brother, and he has kind of a sense on where he is. Which leads us to... did you mention Christopher Lambert was in this movie?
I did not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of names.
There is, but he's in this movie. He plays an arms dealer who is Amy Poehler's brother, but they never make mention of that in the movie.
Could be a husband. Who
Right.
knows?
So go ahead, Chris. Like, there's several relationships when you do research in the movie that people were related to each other, and they didn't mention that at all in this movie. So I don't know if that's what got cut on the editing floor, all that, but yeah.
Sarah Michelle Gellar, her character is Krista Kapowski, but she goes by Krista now. In her little group of talking heads is another character who has the same last name, but they don't allude to the fact that she's related somehow. You just know Krista now. I mean, again, as Shane said, there's a lot of names being thrown at you, and what people's roles are. So it's kind of hard to keep track and find importance, or if this makes no importance. But in making this list of characters that are in here, Wallace Shawn's character, the Italian from The Princess Bride, and the teacher in Clueless. We all know him. You know, Wallace Shawn. His character is named Baron von Westphalen. And Beth Grant's character name is Dr. Inga von Westphalen. Now, I don't know if they're brother and sister or they have like this open relationship, because Wallace Shawn is really attached to Bai Ling's character, who is named Serpentine. Just
Right,
Serpentine.
and they play a group of scientists along with Booger.
Curtis Armstrong.
Yeah, sorry. And they, since in 2008, in the near future, gasoline is not heard of. So they're running low on energy sources. So they use
Fluid karma.
Yeah, fluid karma that they harvest from the waves of the ocean to fuel everything in the area. So that's their role in this. But they also have their own agenda. Again, I won't go into it because it is confusing. So, okay, so about, I would say, when do we see John Lovitz?
When? Like with timestamp?
Somewhere around there. Because let's just say neo-Marxists are using Ronald to, again, blackmail the Republican Party.
I would say half an hour, 45 minutes into
Right.
the movie.
So Boxer is following him along in his police car to study him for an upcoming role in an action movie, right? And they're setting it up where Stifler will show up and to this domestic abuse call between Amy Poehler and I'm sorry, Wood Harris plays Dion Element. Yes, they are a big influencers within the neo-Marxist party, and they were going to be used. They were set up with these squibs to go off, and Ronald's going to shoot blanks in them, and then John Lovitz is already on the scene, and shit goes awry, and it doesn't go according to plan.
That's right.
Right, and then we find out John Lovitz is working for Sherry O'Terry, or did I say that right? Yeah. Sherry O'Terry, who's a neo-Marxist, but for some reason has her own agenda. Because she's infighting with people in that own party. I told you, folks, this is a vast movie. And again, I applaud his... whatever vision he had in this movie. It's big. But it never comes together. So here are some of the characters I liked. And then we'll get into like the third act. I liked Will Sasso. He wasn't in a ton, but he played Kristen Now's bodyguard.
Yeah.
Come to find out, he's working for the neo-Marxists.
I'll go with that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Right. I like Cheryl Terry's character.
Yeah.
She plays a tough as nails, in your face, beating the shit out of people like Christopher Lambert, and I loved her character. I did like John Lovitz. It's a different John Lovitz. He plays just like a mean, dyed blonde, bleach blonde hair.
There was no joking with
right. There's
his
no
character.
joking at all. He played it straight laced.
Yeah.
And of course, I thought The Rock did a good job, being this was early in his career. But I thought William...
say Stifler.
Stifler.
At this point, come on.
I thought Stifler, to me, did the best acting in this movie, my opinion. I always liked him in his movies, but no, he really does bring it this movie. So, again, best part of the movie is the cast, and those are some of my favorite. Those are my favorite characters. And Sarah Michelle Gellar, she was fine. I actually liked her as well, and she's hot. Go ahead. Who are some of your favorite characters?
Yeah, I did like The Rock. There was some moments. I don't know if you noticed this, but it was like he reverted to The Rock in certain scenes.
Yes.
Like he had that, like, I was ready to see the people's eyebrow be raised and then, sniff the air and then tackle someone. I thought that was going to happen, and it didn't. But he just had that look, that, looking off into the distance, people's stare. I'm going to call that.
Right.
Yeah, I liked his performance. I liked Sean William Scott's performance. Like all the people that were the neo-Marxists, even though their plan was kind of convoluted and who's who and what's happening and what their next step is, I kind of liked them as a group because they're just a bunch of doofuses who really, they were amateur hour.
Right.
But it's just like, oh yeah, we're going to be these badasses and we're going to overthrow the government. Down with capitalism, up with socialism.
Correct.
And they went about it all wrong. But yeah, it's almost like some of the actors were in a different movie because some were over the top and others were trying to play it like straight. As I said, John Lovitz, like he didn't joke at all. So it's kind of odd to see comedians play straight roles,
Right.
As if they're going to be, oh, is the funny going to come now? Is it? Oh no, it didn't. But I have to say, Justin Timberlake's character is kind of a no, not needed.
Right. No, he really isn't. Even though he narrates it.
And he is sort of involved in the story.
Right. So honestly, what I think he's saying, if he just narrated the movie, we never saw him, the movie would have never missed a beat.
Yeah.
Right.
Basically.
Because his scenes made no importance, didn't push the movie along, didn't do anything.
But I did like the dance number.
I saw.
I have to take something good out of this.
Right. So we're gonna fast forward to like the last scene. So the end of the world's coming. Or at least Boxer knows it's coming. The Republican Party and the rich people, 1% people, are up in this big, huge mega Zeppelin. And that's when the final act happens. Boxer's in there, and we find out that there was 2 versions of Boxer.
Yep.
Because there's, again, if you listen to the synopsis, there was a time rift that opened up, and they sent Boxer through there. And a future version of himself, how many minutes did he jump? Like 60 minutes, right?
Something like that. 69 minutes.
Yeah, 69 minutes. So there's a future Boxer and a past Boxer. Future Boxer lives, past Boxer dies.
Yes.
Then we find out there's 2 versions of Stifler. They're not brothers, they're the same person.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if they touch hands, then it's supposed to be the end of the world because the 4th dimension would collapse on itself. That's why their hands were glowing, because 2 souls cannot occupy the same space. And Time Cop. Yeah, right. And that, pretty much. And that is like the end tale of the movie. And it just kind of ends with the Stifler brothers holding hands and neither one of them want to let go. Now, I interpreted the end because we fast forwarded to where we looked at Ronald's eyes and they got all white. I thought he just absorbed the soul of... So we never saw, quote unquote, the destruction or the dimension collapsing in on itself. Right. There's a weird scene where when they interlocked hands, the ice cream truck that they were in just started levitating in the air. There was a dude on there with a rocket launcher, right? Yeah. He took down the Zeppelin that all the 1%ers were in. And that's how the movie kind of ends. Yeah. So you're kind of left to your own conclusions. I'm sure Mr. Kelly's going to fill us in on what happened afterward. But you said something about rebirth, so go ahead with that.
Yeah, I remember when I first rented Southland Tales, the extra features, which I was a huge fan of, in general, just DVDs that had a lot coming along with the movie. It justified the amount of money that you're dropping for these pieces of plastic that most people are throwing away now. On the extra features, there was the aftermath of their interaction. Big explosion happens, sort of like a Big Bang kind of thing, and the Earth starts anew. It was animated, I believe, and some of the animation shows through the movie. The animation is like, these organisms coming together, and then the organisms form to creatures, and then the creatures develop legs, and then the legs, they climb up onto the land. That's what I remember it as, and I think that's what happened. Right. But the animation wasn't great. Right. It was kind of crudely put together, I think. But it was it sort of explained that it's all a rebirth. It starts all over again.
So Shane's brain is going to ignore everything Chris just said. And in my mind, the movie ends with him absorbing his soul and Earth moving on as it is, with the 1% in the Zeppelin just being gone. That's just the way I feel about it. I thought this movie, direction-wise, the way he directed the movie was fine, right? I had no problem with the directing. I thought some of the dialogue was bad. I mean, the writing was not great. There was a line in here when the Rock Boxer discovers his old, because they kept his old body, his old corpse. Yeah. And he said, "I'm a pimp, and pimps don't commit suicide." And that, I was like, what? So that made no sense. And it was actually brought up like 10 minutes later in a dance scene. We're like, yeah, he's a pimp, and pimps don't like. It just was.
Yeah. Do you want me to explain that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or so, the way it was executed was a little out of place, but it was how he knew his other body didn't commit suicide. He was being told that that his original body went in a suicide mission, and that's what he saw in this glass case casket kind of thing. But he knows the truth. His personal belief is that he's a pimp, and pimps don't commit suicide.
And that was one of the scenes that I thought he was going to raise his eyebrow. That's definitely one of the scenes he was going to raise his eyebrow. Yeah,
if you smell what the boxer's cooking.
Right, and that's pretty much it, folks. That is it. That's a lot to tackle. But again, I bring this up because if you're interested and if you are a fan of this, it's out there on Blu-ray. Now, Kelly he has 2 cuts in there. One is the original theatrical cut, which we just discussed. But there is the Cannes Film Festival cut. Yeah. I'm going to use air quotes. Controversial Cannes cut, because apparently he cut a lot out of the movie. There's a scene with Janine Garofalo in there, and apparently she had some major roles in this movie that we only saw her for 2 seconds on film. So all her stuff was on the chopping floor. So you read a little bit about that, right?
Yeah, just the fact that she played a major role into maybe the third act or throughout the whole film, but she played a major role instead of a cameo.
Right. So a lot of stuff on the chopping floor. Meaning, if you were a fan, hey, check out the Cannes cut. It may be 4 hours, which equates to 8 hours on the couch, because that's what it's going to seem like. But yeah, folks, again, enter this at your own demise. Now, Richard Kelly's on record for saying he has in the works more novels, graphic novels, on this movie, and he wants to do 3 more movies based on events going on within this movie. And I'm like, why? Why would you? I'm going to leave it there. Why? Because no one wants to see it. Now, if you wanted to dive back into the Donnie Darko universe, or just do something different, No one wants it. So if I had to give this a out of 5, I'm going to go 2 out of 5 for me, based just on the cast. Cast is great. I love the cast. No really big A-listers, unless you think Sarah Michelle Gellar is an A-lister, but no, all B-level, right? I mean, The Rock's A now. But
even then, it was just like, oh, the wrestler?
Right. So, cast gives it a 2.
I hate to ride your coattails, but yeah, I would give it a 2 as well. Only because, like I said, I had rose-colored glasses on when I first saw this, because I was like, you know what? I really like Donnie Darko.
Right.
And I see where he's going with this. I like it. I'm with it. And then now in my 2021 vision, my God, I'm like, it's all over the place.
It's disjointed. If I could use one word, it's disjointed.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, yeah, as you said, it is timely. It definitely could be placed nowadays instead of 2005. And that's no reason to say, hey, no, it should be higher on that scale.
Right.
But it is oddly prophetic in certain ways. But overall, I'm curious what the new cut is, or the old cut.
Right.
I'm curious about it, but I don't know if I want to plunk down the money for this plastic,
right?
As I said, to see if I look at this film any differently,
right? Ooh, that'd be a long afternoon. So I think I can summarize this movie, and I think when you get to the crux of this movie, the moral of this movie is nobody rocks the cock like Kristen now.
That's pretty good.
And that's it, folks. That is it. So, Chris, tell the good people out there, and they should know by now if you listen to me where they can find you. But go ahead and just Have the floor, bud.
You can find me on the Facebooks with the title Arguing With Myself, where I try to talk movies and entertainment and write about them because I have the right opinion. That's WRITE opinion. I also like to branch out on my artistic ventures by promoting podcasts like Shane's. I have an Instagram, which is Arguing With, and I have a Twitter handle of Arguing W myself, and you can see all the fun things I'm doing over there, which is basically listening to Media Mosh whenever I can.
You heard the man. Get on it. You can find me in the Twitterverse at Shane Media Mosh. You can find me on the Facebook's page, Media Mosh. But more importantly, people, go to your Apple Podcast store, download me, share me with your friends. I swear to God, they'll thank you for letting me into their lives 20 minutes a week. So until then, get caught up in the mosh.